think you all know, but this is a complete surprise for my mom. She had no idea that we were restaging this. I choreographed it on a group of my closest friends in college who also had a member of their family who had Alzheimer's. So it was our way of coming together and coping with watching someone you love have Alzheimer's. So in about March of this year, my grandmother passed away, Meemaw, passed away in 2014. And about March of this year, I had this urge. I just wanted to see it again. I wanted to experience it again. I wanted to share it with this group of women who have become my closest friends now. And I thought, if I'm going to do that, why not surprise my mom? So she had no idea that it was coming. And I had to do all kinds of stealth work of like, when are you coming to visit? I would really love to know. I miss you a lot. Can you come soon? Can you give me a date so I know? And then even today, I was so nervous. We all went to dinner before. I was like, okay, I feel like it's been coming for so long and now it's game day. And I'm going to blow it on game day. And so my dad was like, what kind of dance is it? And I said, modern. And my mom was like, can you give us any kind of context about it? Like, can we know anything? And I was like, I'd really rather you just experience it. You should just experience modern dance and see what you think about it, and then we can talk about it after that. So,
thank you all so much.
I would love to, if you have any questions, if you have any, well, we have comment cards, so you can leave comments later, but just open this up as like a chat. Do you want to ask me questions about how I was able to use dance to grieve and then ultimately honor my grandmother and my mother? Do you want to ask these ladies who didn't know my grandmother what it was like to learn this piece? Really just whatever you're interested in. We'll have a bit of chat, Q&A, and then, like I said, the three of us, well, Darcie said the three of us will perform it. I've never gotten to perform it before, so I'm excited about that. So that you can really see what we just talked about. You know, maybe you'll see little details that have been put in there that you didn't recognize the first time that we talk about now, and then maybe take something completely different away from it than you did the first time seeing it. So I open it up to you. And don't be shy.
So you're going to tell us the order of the story? The progression of the story?
Sure. So it starts out Darcie, and then the next cast it will be Mary, are the Meemaw characters, and representing this very strong woman. She's beautiful, such a strong, kind individual. And then Megan, who is double cast tonight, is my mother. And it starts with their relationship and just developing that. They had a really beautiful mother-daughter relationship. And then Jess and myself are myself. So they come in and it's very playful, and then it creates this setting of the lineage, of being in this line of women that I'm so blessed to be the next in line of. And then there's a moment, and I'm sure that you caught it, they're all doing the same movement, and then the Meemaw characters break off. And that's when she starts to forget. And then you'll see her consistently maybe catching just up with them, and then it's gone again. And when I made this piece, Meemaw was still alive, and she actually got to come see it. And she sat in between my mom and I held her hand, and she hadn't spoken in years. And when it was over, she said, "It's good." And that's all I ever needed for this piece, was to hear my grandmother say that. But it's taken on a whole new meaning now that she's passed. Because what you can't see tonight that was on a big stage was there was a scrim that came down between the first song and the second song. So the Meemaw character was behind a scrim, and what that represented was the barrier that Alzheimer's disease had presented for us to communicate with her. But now it's taken on this whole other beautiful representation that she's gone, but she's still there. And you can feel her when you see a cardinal, or when there's magically a piano in the room. My grandmother and I were the only ones in the family who played piano. When there are birds, when you feel her, she's still there. So this second piece has taken on a whole new but very stunning meaning that I didn't expect when I originally created it.
Did any of these four women get to meet your grandmother? Like, did any of them know her at all?
Does anybody want to talk about what it was like coming into this not knowing Meemaw? Was it a challenge? Did you enjoy it?
It was very special knowing Val and being pretty close friends with her, and knowing her when Meemaw was alive and knowing her when she passed away, or continuing on with that friendship. And it's, for me, it was just a really beautiful reminder of the generations and families and how special that can be when there's close relationships there. So in a way, in my head, I was playing to my grandmother a little bit too. Though then the new element of I've not known anyone that's had Alzheimer's disease before, and I've not experienced what that's like to be a granddaughter of someone or a close acquaintance or friend. But you can imagine, and I can really draw from other bad experiences in my life, but it's it's not the same, I guess. So I guess I would say that I'm blessed to have not gone through that process, but it's been a growing experience to kind of step into the shoes and learn more and see more of what it's like.
There are so many things within that choreography, and I can't get past the first part of it without crying. When Meemaw begins the stutter steps were a very telling part of her Alzheimer's. They become afraid to step, and at one point she wouldn't go through the hall. No matter what we did, she would get to a certain point and she would stutter step, and then she would freeze. We could push, we could pull, and it took a long time to realize that there was a rug in the floor. And had I have not read that an Alzheimer's person sees that rug as a whole, they don't understand depth, they don't understand any of that, then I wouldn't have known to take the rug away. And so when the stutter steps happen, that always touches me. The touching continually, a person with Alzheimer's lives only in the moment, and so you and I see a chair and we know that's a chair, but she would continually have to touch that chair to see if it was still real, to see if it was still there. And so much of what she put in there is parts of Alzheimer's that people don't necessarily know, but they're very telling of that disease.
Are there any other moments like that that you heard people look out for?
There's a couple of moments that are really special for me when I'm using this piece to speak to my mother. There's a moment after my character and my mother's character carry Meemaw and they set her down. And you'll notice that the hands on Meemaw's back are one on top of the other. And the Val character puts hers on top of my mother. And that was the most subtle way of me showing my mom, you're doing so much for your mom, let me do some for you. You were there for her constantly. I'm the next in line, I'm here for you. So that's a really tender moment for me. And then at the end, the Val character and the mom character both have their arms up. And Meemaw reaches towards Val. And then when she reaches towards her daughter, she cups her hand. And for some reason, that is so special to me. And I talk to Darcie and Mary, and I'm like, can you do it slower? Can you do it like you're holding a kitten? Can you it's just, I love kittens. Who doesn't? But it's so special to me. And even in this moment of Meemaw is no longer with us, but she is so close that you can feel her, but she's no longer physically touching her. So that's a really special moment for me, too, just to look for. But, yeah. And the ending, you're absolutely right, Mom. The ending, it becomes, even when the scrim was down, the way that the lighting was, it created one image of three women where they had become completely together, unified. The disease, the pain, the heartache didn't separate them by any means. It only drew them closer together. So it makes, and you can look for it, it makes this perfect shape of the three women together. So there's also, yes, thank you, you didn't say anything, but in the beginning, when the Val character comes out, she does what I call the little girl movement. And then later on, when Meemaw, it's at the very end, she's already struggled, she's already tried to get out of her skin. She replicates that movement, the little girl movement. And for me, that was showing that when you have Alzheimer's, it's kind of like you grew into an adult and then you kind of came back to needing the care of a child again. So my mom said a couple of times we would go to the grocery store and I would have to hold Meemaw's hand from trying to grab things off the shelves, different things like that. So just kind of mimicking the little girl movement and showing how when you have Alzheimer's it goes kind of like this. Yeah. Anybody else have anything?
Was it hard to dive back into this piece? Did you feel like you were diving back into your grief or something? Was it difficult?
Yeah, so the way that I've always approached doing this work is that I wanted it to come from a very sincere place. So I would tell, and I told the original cast stories, and I told them stories whenever we would set a specific part, I would tell them where this movement came from for me. And I told them the story about the first time Meemaw forgot who I was, which is always really hard to tell. And the last time I heard her say my name, both of those are very vivid in my memory. And I told them just recently, we were talking about emotion through the piece, and I told them how I knew that Meemaw was still with us when I would walk into the room, and she had been in a wheelchair, she couldn't speak, she couldn't walk, but I would get down on her level and I would stare straight into her eyes, and there was a haze there. But if I stayed long enough, the haze would lift and she would play with a lock of my hair. and she would touch my hand, and she would hold it, and we would play Charlie Pride, and she would tap my hand. And I knew that she had come back to me for a moment. So I knew as long as I could get her to connect with me through her eyes, she was still with us. So I think it was talking about these stories. I had a lot of crying moments. And if I told a story and I didn't cry, I would proclaim that I didn't cry that day. Because it's still very hard. But I needed to share it with them so that they knew where it came from. And I think it also just opens up a part of me that they didn't know yet, and being able to connect on that level too. So, do any of you want to say anything else?
Before you do it again, just let me say thank you all. Touch my heart.
Were you surprised?
The instant I heard 2 notes, I
Yeah.
went, yes.
All right, going once, going twice?
The music,
Yeah.
why did you choose that?
My grandmother and I both played piano. We were the only ones to play piano. And so I needed to have only piano in the music. No strings, no percussion. So I literally put on Pandora piano station and I listened to it for hours. And I was going crazy. And then this song came on and I was so tired and probably studying for some kind of exam. And I was like, wait a second, I think this is gonna be great. And so I took that one and then the first song I need, and then I needed a second one. And I thought, okay, so I found this one and I asked my mom, I said, can you just buy this one song for me on iTunes? She ended up buying the whole dang collection. So I now have like weird lullaby music on iPhone. But that's where that came from. I sat and I waited, and it sounds so cheesy, but I sat until I knew that it was right. And the first song, especially, I feel it has, it tells the story musically. So it starts out soft and sweet, and then there's that escalation moment where, what I call Meemaw struggle, where she's touching herself, and then she's so frustrated that she literally wants to get out of her own body that has failed her. And then it kind of de-escalates again. So it seemed right.
I see purple.
And the purple and green, Alzheimer's awareness colors are purple and green. I thought that was going to give it away when you walked in. It didn't. Magically. But anybody else? I love talking about this, so please feel free to ask questions.
Did you change the piece at all for this iteration?
Not really. Little small things of, well, the spacing is much different.
Sure.
But, you know, like an arm, they would suggest, like, can we do it this way, because that doesn't feel quite right. Great. But for the most part, it's exactly how it was. But it's always really interesting to see the same work on different bodies, which is why I'm excited that you get to see a second cast. Because you can do the same movement, but see it in a different way, get something completely different from it. Just like somebody can tell you the same thing over and over and over, but somebody else says it in a slightly different way, and it totally clicks. So I always think it's really kind of interesting to watch it on different groups of people. So, and I respect them so much as dancers that I did come in with this already set, but I also wanted it to be like, talk to me, tell me what you think, what you feel. Do you feel weird? Do you, like, is that not working for you? What's going on? But they're so respectful that they're like, we'll do whatever you want to do. Right. So. Cast two.
Thank you.